and welcome to On the Patio with Mr. D. Now, everyone throughout the world is being affected by this COVID-19 virus, and here in Florida, they've shut down all the state parks and city parks and county parks and waterways, and only some public boat ramps are still open. But everything is shut down, and it's put a screeching halt on my Paddling Places Florida reviews. So today, what I'm going to do is address a question I get a lot, and that is, Dale, how do you attach cameras to an inflatable kayak? And so I'm going to give you all kinds of different options, because there are times I have 8, 9, or 10 cameras going at one time. Depends on where I'm at, what I'm doing, all that kind of stuff like that. So I'm going to give you several different options on how you can do this. And one of the things you got to keep in mind is I strap these things down, or I have made modifications to the inflatable kayak to be able to hold that particular camera in place. I'm going to show you the equipment that I use, how I set it up, and then you guys can make a determination which way you want to go. Now, one of the things you got to keep in mind is that your kayak is moving all the time. It's doing this, you're paddling, the yaw's going on. An electronic gimbal is pretty much a necessity for on-water kayaking. So the bad thing is that I have not found any gimbals that last. There was one that was waterproof, and it died almost right away. So understand, when you get these action camera gimbals, they are not waterproof. So keep that in mind, and we're going to start breaking this thing down and show you each option, what cameras used, all that kind of stuff. So we'll be back in a little bit. All right, so what I want to do, guys, is give you some options of camera gear that you could use for an inflatable kayak. First off, get yourself a what they call a bridge camera, and you can stow that right in the deck bag. These work really good. This one reaches out, I think it's 1,300 millimeters. One of my favorites is the Osmo Pocket, and that's right here. Now, the Osmo Pocket is a handheld unit like this. Has a touch screen here, but it has a built-in 3-axis gimbal. Now, being it's 3-axis, I've incorporated what they call a Z-axis stabilizer, which is this right here. Now, you don't need to do that, but what it does, the camera sits in here like this. I attach the Wi-Fi attachment right here, and the camera will get that 4th axis, as you can see here. The 3-axis gimbal will be working like this, and I'm going to show you how I mount this later in the video. Another option is to have an action cam. Now, this one has the Sony on it. I have GoPros over here, and DJI and Yi. But this one is attached to a Fotopro flexible tripod. Now, this particular unit I attached to the back of the rigging. We'll get into that later. I'll show you how I do that. I have a GorillaPod with a Yi 4K camera here. That one wraps on top of the deck bag. Again, I'll get into that a little later. And lastly, the floating tripod. This is where I have 4 different action cameras that are all in operation at the same time. I launch it away from the craft. It is able to pick up imagery north, south, east, and west. The reason for the different colors here is for the main 2 cameras up here. When I'm out on the water, it tells me which direction the lens are facing. So what we're going to do now, guys, is break down each individual one and how it's rigged and how I put it on an inflatable kayak. So hey, we'll be back in a bit. So the first option we want to talk about today, guys, is the GorillaPod overstrap on a deck bag. Now, if you notice, I have a 3-axis gimbal, electronic gimbal mounted to this, because your boat does this and your horizon is going to do this. So in using a gimbal, what it does, if you notice, the camera, as I'm rocking this thing back and forth, the camera is going to stay straight. If you get up and down motion, your camera and your horizon line is going to stay straight. So your video is going to come out really pristine. So I'm going to show you how I hook this thing up, and then I'll be back in a bit. One of the first things you got to do is kind of grab yourself some old webbing. You may have it around 1-inch webbing, 1 1/4, it doesn't really matter. You're going to burn a hole in here. Take a hot screwdriver, heat it up with a torch. It gives you a real nice hole right here. Now you are going to need a quick release system to be able to secure this strap onto the screw. And basically all you do is just screw this on like that. And then you put the other end, your other end on your gimbal and camera. Now in this particular case I'm using the Yi Lite in this demonstration. And what you do basically is just attach this in. It'll lock into place. It has a little locking device right here. You want to lock that over. Now it's time to attach it. What you do is you wrap the legs around like this on your Gorilla Pod and just curl it, as you can see what I'm doing here. And in the nose you get a curl, so you can get that curl right here. Then you want to take your strap under the rigging and the deck bag, and I made the straps use standard plastic clips like this. Goes underneath the bag and underneath the rigging. Then you just clip it into place like that, and then readjust your legs where you want them. Alright, so basically what I've got right now is the gimbal is running. You can see the white light flashing right here. Now you can operate this gimbal from the app, which able to raise, lower, move the camera around, all that kind of stuff. Your horizon, as your boat rocks like this, the camera is going to stay straight and keep your horizon flat. And that's what you want. This is a very basic system right here, but it's not coming off. So this is a real cool way, very quick, inexpensive way, but the gimbal is pretty much a must. So that's option one. Now this is probably, and in fact it is my most favorite option used. I use the 3-axis gimbal Osmo Pocket from DJI. And I use a Z-axis stabilizer to take care of wake issues, or I'm getting into wake and stuff like that, or a lot of chop, because this is a 3-axis gimbal which will take care of this and this and this and this. But this and this is not covered in a 3-axis gimbal. So adding this particular stabilizer mechanism, this allows me to control the camera 100% using the Mimo app. And I can spin it around into selfie mode, as you can see right here. Hey, hey, hey. And I can take it back around where it was and keep that. Now this keeps the horizon really, really, really flat. You can see I can adjust it up and down, left and right. I can pretty much do whatever I want to do. So the Osmo Pocket is my favorite camera for on-water photography. It shoots 4K at 30 frames a second, and I'm able to use this unit down here via Wi-Fi, so it's not in my way. It's really a cool system, and I'm going to show you how I mount that and how I got to where I can mount it and not worry about it. So hey, be back in a sec. So being this is not an advanced frame unit, it doesn't have the forward zippers, which means it doesn't have this little clip system. So grab yourself, I think I used 1-inch webbing and some small buckles, and you're going to have to sew that thing in here by hand. And what I did is I just did some stitching through here. I stitched the buckles together so it forms a circle like that. And the purpose of that is to maintain and hold a Fujitech tripod and per gear tripod legs. I'm going to put that in there right now. So as you can see, the tripod legs are screwed onto the Fujitech, and it's called an FT568, and it extends really high, and that's why I got it. As you can see here, I can raise it up and still have the forward camera on a gimbal, and allowing me to go left to right with the using the Mimo app from the DJI Osmo Pocket, and I can go left, right, and then get side shots. Let this front gimbal here get the front shots. One of the things you want to make sure is when you're in your boat and you're setting up your shot, make sure that the nose of the boat is not in the shot. So adjust your gimbal so it raises above the nose of the boat, and you can do that with the particular application and raise the gimbal to go up. I'm going to shut this gimbal off for now. I'm now going to show you another option you can use, and this one's kind of unique for rigging cameras on an inflatable kayak. So we'll be back in a minute. The next part is putting a rear camera. I'm setting up a rear camera option for you. Now this can be done, first of all, you're going to have to rig your Advanced Elements Sport or 1044 or whatever, because they don't put rigging back here. It's not that big a deal to do. Same kind of buckle system here, hand stitch in the webbing, put the buckle on, and set this thing up to where you have rigging in the back. Now to mount this is real simple. This is a flexible tripod from Fotopro. It's called a UFO 2, and it really works well. You take the aft handle here, and the first thing you're going to do is run the leg through that and pinch it closed. Then reach back, grab your rigging, pinch it closed. Same here, pinch it closed. Now set your camera up to where it doesn't pick up the nose or the aft end of the kayak. Then turn this, lock it into place, and that's there. Now, I don't recommend using a gimbal back here, is because of the way it's rigged. You can see any kind of movement like that. So if you're going to use this system here, I recommend strongly that you have a camera that has built-in stabilization. This one does. Some of the higher-end GoPros do. The Osmo Action does have stabilization, and it's pretty good. Or if you're still getting some kind of movement in the horizon and stuff like that, when you're in post-production, hit the stabilization button and it'll flatten right out. But this way here, as you can see, it is not coming off. There's no way. So this is an excellent way for you to mount an aft camera on your boat. Now you heard me talk about having a still camera. This here is my sister's Canon SX60HS. This shoots 1365 millimeters out in optical zoom. Best way to do that is using the Advanced Elements WaterTech Gear deck bag or a deck bag of your choice. And basically all you have to do is just slide that thing in there, and when you're on the water, you're all good to go. You get ready to take your shots, you reach in here, grab your camera, and then when you're done with those particular shots, you just zip it closed. Now what I do, I normally have the camera, once I'm on water, see a lot of wildlife, stuff like that, I have the camera laying in my lap. Well, hey guys, I hope that helped you answer your questions on how you can mount cameras on an inflatable kayak. We gave you several different options here. One was using the GorillaPod system with an electronic gimbal and your action camera mounted inside the electronic gimbal to keep the horizon flat as your boat is yawing and listing left and right and stuff like that. It'll keep your horizons really flat. My favorite setup, of course, is the DJI Osmo Pocket with the Z-axis stabilizer and phone mount down here. I can operate the camera and all its functions right from the cell phone using the DJI Mimo app. The cost of this particular unit right here is $369, and with some accessories, you'll want to have the Wi-Fi set up down here. you're going to be into this for probably around $400, $450 maybe, depending on which way you go. Now the Fujitech FT568 monopod system is really great. The reason I picked this, I used to have the ones that you used to, you raise it up and twist it to lock it into place. They don't stay secure very much. I like the clip system here. Now this one expands way up there. Now that's all the way extended way up there, and I think it's 52 or something like that, but it is way, way up there. Now I never raise it up that high. The highest I normally get it is right about here. And that works out great because it doesn't block the view of any of the forward cameras on the front and allows me to get my shooting done. I can adjust using this pole mount, cell phone mount. I can adjust this down here where I can operate the camera 100% from the Mimo app right here. This is a great way to go. They've just come out with a brand new wide angle lens for the DJI Osmo Pocket. It's on back order right now, but it's supposed to really open up the shot. I think this is 90 or 120 degrees, and it's supposed to open up to 170 without the fisheye look. Should be pretty cool. It's made by Freewell, but they're all on back order right now. I'll do a comparison once I get that lens in, and once they get it in, then I'll get it. And then I'll do another quick video on the differences from that particular lens. Now they have some other third-party wide-angle lenses, but it softens the corners really bad. And you can also tell when they're saying $20 for a wide-angle lens for the Osmo Pocket. First of all, you know that isn't going to be any good. The other ones are a little bit more expensive, but they took care of that softness on the outside edges of your video to keep that all sharp and square, but they can't keep them in stock. The other thing we talked about was setting up an aft camera. Now, I just recently started doing that. I had like I said, the Fotopro, a flexible tripod, and I had an epiphany where I wanted to figure out, hey, how about I can rig a camera back there, but the camera's going to have to be stabilized by itself, because adding that much weight onto that flexible tripod may cause a problem, make it top heavy, and I'm only attaching it to the rigging and the front handle. So I want to make sure that the camera is secure, not going to come off. And if the unfortunate does happen and I flip this thing, all these cameras will still be there, except this one is not waterproof, that one's not waterproof, and this gimbal is not waterproof. So I'll lose them. So you just don't flip your boat. And I know that would be a problem for me, but I would immediately replace the DJI Osmo Pocket because it is my favorite camera. I've used it for 2 seasons now, and it has taken what I used to fill the back seat of my truck with cameras and gear and tripods and all that stuff, and I've got it all narrowed down just to this. So it's really outstanding. So anyway, I hope that answers your questions, guys, and hey, we'll see you on the next one.